Good Wednesday to you all. Income 731. Welcome to week boom 7. We are nearing the halfway point because although it's a 16-week course, really the last week, you don't have readings and stuff. So it's like, it's actually 15 weeks of reading. So hang in there. You are doing just great. Okay, to get the week started, and tragically, I'm out of coffee here, but I am already sufficiently caffeinated. A couple of quick reminders. Keep working on your technology tool assignment. Okay. And, if you don't remember what that is, go take a look in module 6, and there's an instruction sheet. I will have very, very soon the link in Blackboard where you upload said technology tool, and it's due at the end of the month. So, I know it's only the 2nd of October, and this isn't due to the 28th, but, heads up. Okay. This week, we're going to be finishing Tapscott and Williams. Where it is here? Macroeconomics. Right. I hope you've enjoyed the book. I've read this book several times. Some of the predictions have played out, some not so. Some of the things that they say we ought to have, and we're going to get to that by looking at the questions from last week. Maybe we should, and maybe we shouldn't have them. But that's up for you to decide, and I want you to tell me as you read this. So we're going to finish it up this week with the last few chapters, and then I've given you one more link. I know we've now had 2 videos from either of the 2, and this is Tapscott's TED Talk, okay, in which he sort of lays out some of his basic principles and basic assumptions. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the questions from, I'm sorry. So for your papers, I am working on those and should have those done by about this time next week, no later. I had my own delay as caused by Hurricane Helene. I am fine. Just trying to get caught up. I know some of you have actually been impacted by the hurricane, and I hope that you're well. Please stay in touch with me if it's causing problems for you, getting online. Some of you said you had power outages, you had to evacuate. What a crazy storm. So remember what the objective here is with this first part of the paper. I'm going to give you what is designed to be useful feedback in the sense that I will tell you, hey, do a lot more of this, and hey, don't do that. If you have any questions about my feedback, please come, call me. I'm literally sitting right here during my office hours. And if you see a note from me on your paper, usually, like in the general comments, asking you to reach out, you're not in trouble. Okay. There are just some things, and I'm looking for patterns. There are some patterns that are emerging, whether it's in your approach to research, how it is you handle sources, your writing, that I want to drill down on with you, with the intent of making you a better communicator, a better researcher, and a better writer. So if you see that note, don't freak out. It's just me reaching out to help you. Okay, let's take a look at the questions from week number 6. See what you have to say. See, if we can add anything. Question number 1. What are the 2 important implications that new technology is creating for the future distribution of music and television programs and film? This landscape is changing rapidly, but in some ways not as rapidly as you might think. There's a rising tide of Christian conservative, and that doesn't mean that has to be where you're at, media entities and projects that are both doing things in traditional ways and non-traditional ways. The Daily Wire is one of them, and I'm aware of these guys because I know some of the people that work there, and now where they're centered is around Nashville, Tennessee. Is not that far from where I live. And, they are now producing films that are appearing in theaters as well as in this online space subscription driven type service. So things are changing, but, Organizations that seemed a little bit behind the curve are now catching up. But let's see what you said. Okay, Sean, we're going to take you first because you went first. Ever since I was younger, I realized the entertainment would grow different as I got older. That's very insightful for, as a young man, Sean. First time I picked up a Choose Your Own Adventure book, I realized there's a different way for us to enjoy the same mediums we once had. Over time, we see things as interactive material used as marketing. Movies like the whatisthematrix.com gave us different ability to experience the story before the film hit the theater. Blair Witch Project had alerts of missing people that made the movie goers believe the found footage movie was real. And I found that, yeah, by way of, different sort of a storytelling technique, the found footage. And macroeconomics, we learn how movie making is changing. The first so-called Machinima films, edited by a diary of a camper, was originally created in 1996. Okay, we can now utilize video game structures and characters to build movies without the need of expensive sets in Hollywood. Action is probably safer before as well. Yeah, probably. Okay. Yeah, it's becoming a lot more diffused. If you have an interest in communicating, whatever it is you do, and making a living for it, you could not have been born at a better time, because not only are the platforms, the mediums, the places by which you can reach consumers multiplying, the accepted modalities, the accepted ways are shifting. Starting with the found footage movement, you mentioned Blair Witch Project in movies. What we've also seen now in video is a rise of a formalized informality. Look at many successful, and I mean very financially successful YouTubers. Okay, the sets are nothing more than their bedrooms. Just a piece of cloth draped behind them, maybe. Okay, the microphones are not that expensive or high end. I mean, I have an in-studio mic because I do a lot of recording as a producer. Okay, this thing cost me like $100. Okay, and it is a wonderful microphone. It's made by a German company called Behringer. So the equipment is accessible, and the expectation of polished, finished production has changed. Very, very rough. Whether it's found footage, I'm gonna move my microphone out of my way. Whether it's found footage or quick jump cuts has become the norm. And so it's almost this fragmentation of approaches to producing story has taken over. Now, for producers, there's an upside, but there's also a downside. In the music industry side, one of the things that's happened, and it really started happening with the iPod, is that music as a marketable commodity is fragmented. And it used to be that you bought the album or you bought the CD, and that's what you bought. And you could be charged for the entirety of the album or the entirety of the tape or the CD. And the justification for the charge was the entirety of the content. That's gone. Now you can simply select which song you want and you don't want. And the price point per song is so low. In fact, whether you like Spotify or iTunes or Amazon and you become a subscriber to the service, that is the price point. It's become harder and harder for many artists to make a living because most of the money is being captured and kept by the distributing platforms. And it's tough writing songs that sort of stick in the public imagination. There's a lot coming out, and it's very tough to write something that becomes a hit. So this has become a problem in that particular industry for producers. Okay, so and this is how it goes with disruption. Disruption always brings challenges to some and opportunities to others. It's kind of like, my analogy is that imagine you knew a blacksmith, and there he stood in his shop, ting, 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 banging out horseshoes on the anvil. And while he was doing it, out the front of the shop, because he kept it open, because it's hot in there, man. Every day he just saw another sequence of Model A cars roll by, one after the other. Yo, blacksmith, it may be time to figure out something else to do with that hammer besides make horseshoes, because the market is shifting. Okay, so for yourself as well, watch out for those things. Question number 2: despite the promise of political leaders to serve in government with openness and transparency, we've seen very little change in the secrecy and closed door deliberations that give public very little influence in the workings of government. I don't know if you've been following the hearings, on Capitol Hill, but it's now being revealed that there were FBI informants and even, it seems, planned agitators in the January 6th group. And they went so far as to encourage people to enter the Capitol building. That sounds like entrapment. But anyway, back to the question. Tapscott and Williams had many ideas for changing our inept political system. Which one or two? That's kind of a setup question, but they're not very keen on it. Which one of the two of these ideas might be implemented within the next 5 years? Crystal. Tapscott and Williams highlight several strategies aimed at changing the political system. In Chapter 14, they speak about the potential of open data initiatives, where most of the information and applications that underpin public offices will be run in a virtual cloud of computing capabilities that stretches across the whole government. In other words, sort of open source government. As a government employee, I understand how much of the frustration in intergovernmental communications. Many agencies hold on to their initiatives and are apprehensive about collaborating with other agencies. I've experienced this on a firsthand account. This is true. Now, the question is, of course, why? Okay. And Tapscott and Williams say, well, government secrecy, et cetera, et cetera. Well, okay, but what's the driving force? Remember, as communication scholars, to identify the manifestation, the symptom, is not to identify the cause. Your job is to get to the cause. Okay, we're pattern recognition experts. Okay. One of the primary causes of this government secrecy is the business model upon which these agencies rise or fall. That is the business model they function, and it is near the polar opposite of business model. And what do I mean by that? So in business model, let's say that you ran, I don't care, a pizza place. Your business model is to make a pizza that you could sell for the maximum amount of profit, okay, but still people will buy it. And then you take a good share of the money that you make of that profit, and you put it back into the machinery of efficiency to allow you to reduce the cost of making the pizza while keeping the profit up here. So that what you make gets, the price you want to stay close to fixed. People don't like it when the price goes up, but the production costs you want to go down and down, and that's how you grow that margin. So you try very hard not to spend revenue unless it works towards efficiency, reducing the cost of production. So that's your aim. You try to hold on to your revenue and put it in strategic places. Most government agencies work on an exact opposite model. They get funded based on how much money they spend during the year, and they get less funding if they don't spend all their money. Now, in business, that's a formula for crash and burn. If you said, okay, now our objective this year is to spend every single cent that we make, and we're not going to hold any in reserve for when, say, the market dips and people aren't buying pizzas. We're not going to hold any in reserve to say save up and buy that new pizza oven. Nope. Spend. You would be out of business. So government agencies tend to be secretive about how it is they're going to burn through all of their capital. And it's the same is true in the private market. They don't just go around say, oh, this is how we're saving our money to reduce our costs. This isn't unique to government. So I'm skeptical about the full feathered version of open market coming to government. That's just me. Okay, question number 3. Do you believe there's any hope to say print news will eventually meet its demise for the reasons explained in chapter 11? Please support your answer with cited research. Okay, Julie, you went first on this one. Let's take you first. Condé Nast is one of the biggest producers of magazines, and they have shifted mainly to electronic subscription. As far as new media being in print, it has followed much of the same trend. It is obvious when one looks at the number of newsstands in New York City. According to several sources, there were as many as 1,500 newsstands in 1950. There are now about 333 newsstands in New York State. I don't know what sort of percentage drop that is, but it's a big one. Okay, during the launch of the newsstand in Union Station filled with print media, the only items sold were fashion magazines. The newsstands are required by law to sell print media, but most make their money selling other items like bottled water, lottery tickets, etc. It can be further evidenced by the rapid decline in print media that legacy papers have been bought out by larger companies such as Murdoch. Okay, the shift comes from what channels were used to consume information, how long we are willing to spend doing it. You say kind regards. That's very nice. Okay, but I liked your answer, but you didn't really get to the answer. Is there any hope? Let's go to you, Crystal. Despite the obstacles that it faces, and this is print, including technological advancements, print still has a chance to impact the audience and survive to address the evolution of media. Print media companies may make most of the digital technologies concentrating on good content and investigative approaches. Okay, so in other words, some of you think, yeah, and some of you like, it's already a foregone conclusion. Now, Tapscott William wrote this, this book a little while ago. The landscape changed for the better as far as print was concerned with COVID. One of the things that we saw in COVID was that the consumption of print and print magazines, and we're not talking about like in-depth analyses. In fact, if you look at the top magazines, that they're really they're just junk food for the brain. Okay, they're very little in the way of intellectual substance and intellectual macronutrients. There's the things that a good thinking mind needs. Okay, not there. But they did go up, and one of the questions that researchers are asking is why. Well, when they survey people and they ask them questions to try to get at this question, one of the reasons it seems to be why is that people have it hardwired. It's innate. It's in us. We have a need to touch things. We have a tactile need. So there are within certain demographics, there are places in which print as a medium is doing okay and even expanding. And I myself, my relationship with electronic media has evolved over the years. I mean, first, it came out, I was like, woohoo, look at this. Now I don't have to carry all the books that I want. I can just carry thousands on my Kindle, which I don't have anymore. But one of the things that I found was I missed the tactile nature of the thing. And so, for instance, there are magazines that I now subscribe to. They're long reads. They're almost hardback, like this one. I want to recommend this outfit to you. Let's see if I can get it without a reflection. It's Hearth and Field. Okay, there we go. Hearth and Field. This is their first issue. hearthandfield.com. I really like these guys. Now, bias admission, I write stories for them, and we have a really good relationship. I know the editors, and they're great folks. In fact, in this issue, I have a review of the book Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. All right, and here's my little bookmark. My wife keeps wanting to make bookmarks for me, and I there's a saying that goes, the gracious accepting of the gift is to return a gift to the giver. So I don't say no, but frankly, I prefer things that are a little thinner. This one happens to be a subway ticket from a ticket down to Versailles from Paris. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, which suits me just fine. But anyhow, see, but back to the tactile nature of the thing. So I stopped reading ebooks, except for things that are like manuals, like, how a camera works, or how to set the clock on the stove or something. I like, I have books sort of in various categories. There are books that I carry around and read from frequently, like this one. I just pulled some off my shelf, and these are, off screen here. Well, you can see some of them off camera. That I have a bookshelf that I've mounted on the wall, and then I have actually the bookshelves go all the way around my office and then the rest of my house. And I have, certain kinds of books. So right handy, right up here off screen, I have various short things, a lot of poetry. This happens to be the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I read this with some regularity. I have a Latin copy of the New Testament that's handy, that I always keep near me. I have various poets that I like to read. I like the tactile nature. In fact, someone gave me some years ago, 3 years ago, one of these writing tablets, by Remarkable. These things are not cheap. They've got the little stylus that comes out, and you start writing away. I feel guilty because I don't use it. I much prefer the tactile nature of, say, a good fountain pen and paper. So in certain niches for certain things, print is doing okay. Okay. Question number 4. Among the 5 priorities of innovation discussed by Tapscott and Willand, which one should be a priority in being implemented in an organization that you're a part of? So, this is a chance for you to give some of your feedback. Okay, Michael, the priority of innovation that would be best benefited I work for would be the second, build platforms for participation. I work for a Christian music streaming app, and in the past, we've done some really cool things with collaboration with artists, interviews, unplugged acoustic music, videos, podcasts. Sometimes I would like to see something, I guess. Yeah. I'd like to see, my mistake, not yours. For artists is to have ability to upload their music to the platform directly through an artist portal, bypassing the aggregators process altogether. Currently, our platform is linear streaming, but it would be very cool for an artist to realize their music to our audience and design their own profile, bio, thumbnail, image, etc. It would also be cool to have social media aspect to it, where artists can communicate directly with their fans on the platform. And that is very interesting. I wonder if the roadblocks in terms of the company happen to be the cost of setting those services up versus what they would return, knowing that there are platforms already that artists use to do those very things, and YouTube is one of them. So long as you stay within the guidelines that YouTube sets out, you do get that direct access. In fact, when I record these videos, I use the live stream feature on YouTube. It's much easier by way of editing than recording a video on something else and then uploading it and then going through all that rigmarole. So that might be it. I think you're right. That would be good for artists to have that direct access to their fan base. But maybe some of the reason that it's not being implemented where you're at, Michael, is because the option is already there and it's not cost effective for your company to start featuring it as well, because hosting isn't free. Okay. All right, everybody, remember your technology tool and keep working on that. I am working on your papers and I will get those back to you. Okay. And please, if you see, and it's okay to check who they are, legitimate organizations that are helping out the people that are affected by Hurricane Helene, I encourage you to do that. I had a very narrow escape myself, Maybe I'll tell you that story someday. And, we'll finish up this book and then we'll look forward to the next one. Okay. So have a great week. I'll see you on Canvas. I think about you. I pray about you. Take care, everybody. And bye-bye.